Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of On the Grass. My name is Dave Swerski, and I'm thrilled you're here to hang out with me for a few minutes to recap our embarrassing loss in week 2 and to cover the action around the league with my game picks. But before I dig into it all today, please do make sure that you've subscribed and that you've clicked the bell to get the notifications. And drop a comment below to tell me what you did to cope with the loss this past weekend. I, of course, created another sad song, and then I went on a little trip with my wife, who I married 1 year ago this week, and we celebrated life and love together. And I'll tell you what, highly recommend that as a cleansing activity from the disappointment of watching our favorite football team fail so miserably Sunday afternoon. The Bears. So, let's dive in, shall we? The thing is, I can handle us being 0-2 to start the season. Do I enjoy it? Nope. But if you told me that we would be 0-2 because we play 2 divisional playoff teams from a year ago to start the season, who both retained the same head coaches and most of their best players, I could understand how we could potentially come up short in those first 2 games. And had both games been by the final score of the first one, a 24-27 loss each, I could live with that. Wouldn't be happy, but I could live with it. If we didn't blow a lead in the first game to essentially a rookie QB in our own backyard for the first one, and for 2, if we didn't get the absolute snot kicked out of us by our coach's old team in the second one. And another thing that makes this one so hard to stomach is the Packers really do look that good after holding the Lions down in week 1 and then totally stifling the Commanders in week 2. So we start the year 0-2 overall, and even worse, 0-2 in the division, which once again looks pretty mighty to start off the year. So it's a little depressing, my friends. And then if you go a step further and realize we've now lost 11 of our last 12 games played, the pain just keeps repeating. Burst. You could feel the belief in this team coming into week 1 to look like a new version of itself. Did we all expect it to be perfect? Of course not. But did we expect it to look like some form of an improvement? I'd certainly say we did. And so far, we've seen flashes of potential, followed by terrible play that makes you scratch your head and wonder how and when do we get that first win? For all the fun we've had with how well the preseason went and feeling like the Super Bowl was ours, realistically, we all knew this could take some time to develop. Again, I wouldn't have been happy about it, but I wouldn't have been mad if we came out of the first 2 games losing really close, hard-fought matchups with our rivals. What's missing in this 0-2 start is any real clear signs of the rebuild actually amounting to anything. I can't be the only one who thought Ben Johnson and his success with tight ends specifically would lead to an immediate impact by either Colston or Cole, but so far there has been barely any tight end involvement in this offense. I don't know if that's the play calls, the execution of the routes, or Caleb not finding them or looking for them, but that is something that's got me scratching my head for the first 2 weeks. That and the lack of the running game are concerning. I'm not ready to go full deep dark depression here on everything, but what I want, hopefully starting this upcoming Sunday, is for signs of things to improve. I do think Caleb has shown signs in these first 2 games of some improvement, and Rome is clearly beginning to take the leap that I told anyone who would listen that I believed would happen. But it needs to continue. Last year when Caleb was a rookie, in his first 2 games, which were against Tennessee and then Houston, he completed 56.1% of his 66 passes for 267 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks, both against Houston, and he got sacked 9 times. 9 times? 9 times. This year, in his first 2 games played, he's completed 61.5% of his 65 passes for 417 yards, 3 TDs, all to Rome, by the way, and the 1 bad pick last week, and has been sacked 6 times. So, that's some improvement. Maybe not as much as we want to see, but it's something, right? I am trying for a Swerski silver lining moment here for us all, my friends. The progress is there. You just have to dig a bit and be willing to see it to find it. And a big test will be against the Cowboys defense led by the Floos. Bears and his beard, who has given up 61 points so far this season. First 24 to Philly, and then 37 to Russell and the Giants last week. So can Caleb and this offense continue to get better and find their stride this weekend? I sure hope so, because I will be at the Chicago Bears tailgate at 2200 Wabash on Sunday before the game, putting out all the good juju possible to help make it happen, my friends. If you're in town and are coming out, make sure you look for the stash on Sunday before the game. Now, my biggest concern going into this matchup is actually not the offense. At some point, I do truly believe things will click on that side of the ball. But the defense so far is really concerning to me, both for production, but also due to injury. At the time of this taping, so far we've got did not participate designations for TJ Edwards, Tyler Gordon, Brady Jarrett, Jalen Johnson, and Jalen Jones. Our secondary without Kyler and Jalen is very, very thin, my friends. And our linebacking crew is also pretty thin behind Edmonds and Edwards. I don't like how it's starting out, and Jalen Johnson being out now indefinitely is a huge blow. And until we get Kyler back, I just don't see us stopping people from throwing the ball all over the yard on us. And unfortunately, these Cowboys may not be able to stop a nosebleed yet on defense, but their offense is clicking. They are averaging 30 points per game so far through 2, which is 5th in the league. They are 11th in rushing yards per game with 127 yards per game average, and they are 7th in passing yards per game with 274.5 yards per game averaging. So this defense better figure out 3 things: a pass rush, coverage on CeeDee Lamb and Pickens, and how to stop the run with a thinned out linebacking unit and a thinned out defensive line potentially. There is still time for some of those injuries to flip and for us to get a few key players back, so fingers crossed, but it's giving the old hardest stress test going into this one with all that in mind. We are currently dead last in the league in points allowed per game after that 52-point monstrosity last weekend versus the Lions. So nowhere to go but up, I guess. Bears. I'll have my game preview out here in a day or two and fully preview that game, but now let's move on to my game picks for week 3. Last week I tied my week 1 results with 11 correct picks to 5 wrong ones, so far I'm 22-10 on the year. Not too shabby. So let's take a look around the league at the week 3 matchups and give it another go, shall we? First up here on Thursday Night Football, we got the Miami Dolphins traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. It's 0-2 versus 2-0, and I think this one could get ugly pretty quick if you're a Dolphins fan. Bills beat up on the Fishies in this one to get the week started. The Joe Burrow-less Bengals head to Minnesota to take on the 1-1 JJ McCarthy-less Vikings, and I think the Bengals figure out a way to eke out a win in this one. Give me the Texans to get their first win over the Jags. Colts beat the Titans. Raiders beat a potentially Jaden Daniels-less Commanders team in a close one there. Rams and Eagles should be a good game. And something tells me the Rams give them a run for their money and somehow pull out a close win in this one. Falcons over the Panthers. Patriots over the Steelers in New England. Packers beat the Browns. I hate myself for this pick, but it is what it is. Green Bay sucks. Buccaneers over the Justin Fields-less Jets. Chargers tap the Broncos. The Seahawks take care of the Saints at home in Seattle. Come on. Bears. Niners beat the Cardinals in a close one. I'm going to go with the Chiefs to finally get their first win against the Giants on Sunday Night Football. And then to close out the week on Monday night, I'm taking the Ravens to win at home against the Lions. Jared Goff is not the same player playing outside as he is inside in the friendly confines of Ford Field. So I think Lamar and the Birds get it done and win that one. And that's all the games this week, my friends. And with that, that's going to close out this episode of On the Grass. Thank you as always for your continued support of my work here and everywhere else on my other sites too. Check out my game preview in the next day or so, and then I will see you in song when our game is done. Really hoping we get that first happy song of the year going into next week. As always, be kind to each other and be kind to yourself too. And go Bears! Enjoy week 3, my friends.